and welcome to the Thirsty Bitches podcast, where we talk about anything under the sun, from books to entertainment to self-help, and even a little spice. I'm Victoria.
I'm Kiara.
And I'm Katalyn.
And today we're here to talk about Across the Spider-Verse.
Wild. What a mindfuck.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
I did not think that this franchise could get better, and in my opinion, it did. I thought it was great, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
I thought it was really good, so I'm excited to talk about it too, and to hear any notes that you have, because I know that there's so much going on at like all points of the movie that if you weren't paying the closest attention or you didn't see it 5 times in a row,
or you look down at your popcorn for a second, you're like,
yeah.
So it'll be exciting. But before we get into that, we're going to jump into our quenchable moments. And if you're new here, a quenchable moment is something happy or exciting that has happened to us over the last week or so that we want to share with each other and with you. So to kick us off, Katalyn, what was your quenchable moment?
My quenchable moment is I survived the first week of summer school.
Girl, props to you.
Yeah, so my job, we do a summer program at my old university, actually, is where we do it. And we're working 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. So I get 3-day weekends, but 7:30 to 5:30 is a really long fucking day. When 6 of those hours, I have to watch 20 16-year-olds with one other teacher.
Gross.
No, ma'am.
But I know my kids, and the first day I actually had some of my roommates' kids, so we had like 30 kids because someone quit. It's a long story. So it was kind of chaotic, but I survived. The kids are little shits, but you know.
Proud of you.
Thanks. I'm surprised I had a voice. I had to do all the talking. I'm in charge of like the room and stuff, so like I had to do all the talking, and yeah.
Wow, look at you.
Even though I have an actual teacher with me, I'm in charge.
Look me in the eyes. I'm the captain now.
I'm going to do that on Monday. I'll let you know if I do that on Monday.
You know, so funny. Well, I'm happy that you made it through 1 week. How many more weeks do you have?
6.
You're almost there. 1 week down.
No. And this week we only had kids for 2 days. Tuesday was just us prepping. So
yeah, prep usually takes a long time, but you're doing great, and we're proud of you.
Thanks.
Victoria, what was your quenchable moment?
My quenchable moment is I did my nails, and I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, which it's not
cute
really.
When you sent the pictures. They looked really cute.
But I have been a nail tech for over 8 years, and I've never done a French on myself, and I finally did one, and I fucking love it. And this is how I'm doing my nails for the rest of the summer. I also changed the shape because even though I look really good with a square shape, and if you're watching the video, you can see what I did.
They're almond, aren't they?
Huh?
They're
almond now.
Yeah.
But even though I look good with a square shape, my nails, when they get to this length, catch on everything. And I had a casualty when I was working on my desk, so I had to rebuild this one. It's neither here nor there. But yeah, I just bright orange and sparkles, and they're really fun and cute. And if you aren't watching the video, I'll make sure that we share a picture of them on Instagram.
Yes. Both Kiara and I are like, oh.
No, honestly, I'm really proud of my nails right now. Whenever I got them like done with the dip powder, which I did get done for like the holidays and for my birthday, my nails get really, really brittle, and they finally have grown out, and they're actually like the strongest they've ever been now. And I've been trying to be like really good about now, like picking at any hangnails and like filing it down and stuff, and like kind of shaping them out because I really want them, because normally they just look all wonky and crooked and like weird.
Yeah.
And I want them to have like an actual like shape even when they're just bare. So I'm like, that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, you might have a sensitivity to acrylic, and that's probably why you're having that reaction to the dip powder, because it is just a variation of acrylic.
Yeah, I want to try that.
You should try gel.
I want to try the Gel X, where they put like the whole nail.
That's the brand that I use.
I see it all over, and I'm just like, that's what I need. I need you to put not just like a tip. I need a full nail on my nail.
Yeah, so if you specifically go with Apres, they do have a high sensitivity extend gel, is what it's called. It's essentially the glue. And that might be better for you. So
yeah, I think I
can help you research salons. I love Apres.
Perfect. That's what I need.
They make me happy.
I need a good one in Washington because I got a bachelorette party coming up and then a wedding in September. So
We'll get you sorted.
I'll be counting on you.
Anyways, Kiara, what was your quenchable moment this week?
I brought my blonde back.
Yay!
We brought the
So
blonde back for the
cute.
summer. It's more than I think you guys have ever seen on my head. It's kind of similar to the blonde I had in like December 2019, January 2020. But my hair was much shorter then. I wanted to go a little bit shorter, but my stylist was like, absolutely not. She's like, this is my hair. You're not going shorter. So this is what happens when you're friends with your hairstylist. They're just like, no.
Yeah, that length works for you though.
Yeah, I think this length is really good. Anything longer, it was just becoming like unmanageable for me, like because obviously I'm going through a lot, and so I'm not like brushing my hair, or, like doing it as much, and so I don't want it to get matted, and so I wanted to be a little shorter so it's easier to manage. But fresh and fun for the summer. Also, I'm just like, it's fresh, it's new. I'm ready to start something. Somebody interview me. So I'm manifesting with my hair. I just get really tired of like my blonde. Or my brown. It was like very like one color, and I just wanted something. I wanted dimension. I wanted to lighten things up. So
Yay, exciting. It looks really good. You always look good with your blonde on.
Thank you.
So, on to some other exciting things
that you want to talk about.
Yes. So I fucking loved this movie. It was so good that I literally turned my happy ass right back around after I walked out of the theater, bought another ticket, and sat down and watched it in the showing right after mine.
Which was so funny.
It was so long. I don't know how you did it.
I had to see it again, and it was so good.
I
can't get over it
so bad. I went pee like within like the first hour of the film, and then I was like sitting there like holding it near the end. I'm just like, oh my god, like I have to pee so
There's
bad.
So much going on.
And I was just like, there's probably still so much to happen because they obviously it was the part where
spoilers. Also, before we get into
Miles meets
spoilers for everything.
So Miles meets the Prowler at the end.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm like, oh my god, there's still so much movie left. Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there's so much movie left. And then it was like, to be continued. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. So, really quick, the spoiler warning, of course, if you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse, then please don't watch this right now. Save it, come back, whatever. A lot of people, I think, forgot that this is part one.
Because nothing says part one now.
Yeah.
Well, no, nothing
used
says
to
part
say
one.
Part
anymore.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, of course, I knew going in that this was just the first part. I just wasn't expecting it to end where it did. But I really quickly want to go over the trailers because I made it for the trailers this time. Love that for me. But one of the trailers that I got was The Flash.
Yes.
And there were kids in my first showing, which was kind of surprising to me because, like, yes, it's an animated movie, but it's not necessarily a kid's movie.
Oh, there were a ton of kids in mine.
And not that I had an issue with it, although their mom was, like, really fucking loud and she needed to chill out. But a little girl all the way at the end of the Flash trailer, it was dead silent. She goes, "Oh my god!" And everybody just starts cracking up. It was so funny. But yeah, trailers. It was weird. I don't want to see the Flash. I mean, I do want to see the Flash, but also Ezra Miller is a piece of shit. Anyways, the beginning of the movie. So of course, this time we started with Gwen, which I love.
Was so surprised, and then I was like thrown off because like obviously every universe is like it's a different style of art, and I was like, I don't like this because I'm so used to Miles' world that I'm like, I don't like this.
It takes a second to get used to, but I think it was good with Gwen's because her universe art is similar enough to Miles's to not be quite as jarring as it could have been if they had gone somewhere else. I also liked how it was more on the pastel side. I really liked being able to see Gwen like fully in action, and of course she was funny and quippy and it was great. it was cool seeing the dynamic with her and her dad, because the only other iteration of Gwen Stacy that we've gotten so far is Andrew's Gwen Stacy, and her dad was also obviously the police captain. And it was just like a different dynamic than what it is in the Spider-Verse universe. But we also were introduced to two new Spider people at the beginning of the movie, which was Miguel and Jess, respectively, Spider-Man 2099. And then I can't remember what Jess Drew's, like, I mean, she's Spider-Woman, but I can't remember what her universe is. But it was exciting to see them.
Kira's not happy about that.
I really
liked Jess.
I love Jess.
I have hope for Jess.
Yeah.
From the way her facial structure started changing.
Mm-hmm.
When they sent Gwen back, and she was like, oh. And then when she's waiting outside the apartment, she's like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
I have hope for Jess. I hate Miguel.
I figured you probably
Miguel can get fucked.
Miguel is one of those instances in which he is trying so hard to do the right thing that he's slowly becoming the thing that he's fighting against. And I'm excited to see him hopefully come to grips with that. But yeah, we got to see them in action. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun watching that fight scene, especially because Spider-Man is supposed to be funny. All iterations of Spider people are supposed to be funny, except Miguel. Miguel is not funny right now.
Miguel has no jokes.
Yeah, Miguel has no jokes. But I wrote down a quote when they were doing the fight scene at the end, after they've stopped the helicopter, and you see this amazing artwork with Gwen just going through and catching the helicopter, and they've caught it, and somebody yells, I think that's a Banksy.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, not the time. But it was a really great scene.
I also, in that scene, we got verification of like what Earth our universe is, which is 1999.
Yeah. 5 nines.
I had to write that down.
Yeah, same.
I was like, oh my god. And then when he's like, Doctor Strange, and Gwen's like,
he's like, who's Doctor Strange?
I don't know this Doctor Strange guy, but maybe you should get him.
When Rumi and I heard that, she looked at me and I was like, oh fuck, now I have to remember everything.
Yeah, it was just a nice little shout out, which they had placed out periodically, which I thought was great. We also know Gwen's universe, which is Earth 65, which is fun.
It just makes me think, with the way Miguel talked about Miles in his universe and Earth 1999, it made it seem like there will be a crossover at some point because of all the abnormalities that came out of just those two Earths alone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll get into one of those specifically in a minute. The other thing that I thought was really funny, which this might just be specific to me and my friend group from high school. I remember when I was in high school, my friend was telling me about this thing in games, and for the longest time, I just thought it was an us terminology, hammer space. You guys know what hammer space is? It's essentially...
Now, because of the movie.
Yeah, because it was in the movie, and I was not expecting that. And I know that's like such a weird specific thing, but I thought it was absolutely fascinating, because hammer space essentially in games is where you just pull stuff just like out of nowhere, or like in movies when they have unlimited bullets, even though you know a gun cannot hold that many. They're just pulling them from hammer space. Anyways, I thought that was fun. I liked that they added those little like comic book style anecdotes throughout. I thought that was a nice touch. But then we've gotten through the fight scene. We've met Justin Miguel. And now we're going back to Miles' universe. After we've gotten this really nice intro where it's like more in his style. We're in Miles' universe. And it can't be a Miles Morales movie if the first fight scene that he's in isn't goofy as hell.
And is it happening at the same time that he should be with his parents?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
As much as bad as Spot is, I kind of really like him as a villain because he's also quippy and funny.
He's just like awkward.
Well, he was. Yeah.
There was a moment during he has to go to that parent teacher conference. The funniest part to me was when Miles was talking to his mom and his dad is behind him being like, yeah.
He's like, I don't know.
He's like, I don't know what that is.
No.
No.
Like the three of them, their dynamic is so good.
Yeah. But I really liked that fight scene with Spot, and he's like trying. He's like, "Can you just let me rob you? Can you please just let me rob you?"
I think my favorite part is he leaves on the shelf and the bread just
Bread
starts
falls
coming
on
out
him.
of his mouth.
That was so good. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And then Miles getting mad that he like escaped and having to leave, and then his dad immediately having to leave, and
His roommate being like, "I'm not your guy in the chair," and I'm like,
yeah,
But you are.
"You're supposed to be."
yeah. Oh man, gosh. Speaking of actually guys in the chair, J. Jonah Jameson, I think this pretty much proved that he's in every universe. He
Yeah.
always be somewhere.
Mhm.
So, because you can hear him shouting in the background like multiple times. But yeah, that first fight scene was really funny. I love how dynamic the animation is. It's at some points almost like they did, like they have for Avatar or for some movies where they recorded people actually doing the motions, because especially with Miles, he's very fidgety
Mhm.
and he has a whole multitude of facial expressions. And I thought that was great. I was very sad that he was not there for his dad's speech when he was having his party for his promotion to captain.
Listen, he was getting a cake.
Yeah, that he ruined. That said, I'm not proud.
I'm not proud.
Well, I do want to touch on so after when he's Spot escaped and he's chasing him down, and him and his dad are chasing him down,
Mm-hmm.
unbeknownst to each other, they're father son.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden Spot like loses, he kicks himself into his own holes.
Yeah.
And we
He
see the
kicks his own
Spot
butt.
going into like different universes.
Yeah.
Obviously the Lego one was really funny, but then there was a live action one. And
Yes.
the
The lady's like
I'm like,
unimpressed.
That's
that's
Venom.
Venom. That's Venom. I'm just like, and I'm like, that's why she's not like, she's like, no, Venom comes in here all the time. Like nothing
Yes,
freaks me out
that's why
anymore.
she's unfazed, because she's used to Venom and Eddie. Yeah, that's
And
Earth 688
this is the second movie in a row for Spider-Man that we have gotten a Venom
cameo.
drop in.
Yeah.
So
Teaser.
I'm really excited because I love Tom Hardy. I love Venom.
Yeah. And there was
So
also a lot of little drops from Andrew specifically.
yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of
So,
drops from Andrew.
Oh,
but
this is probably kind of far out from where you guys want to be, but
Mhm.
when they were like showing all the different universes,
Mhm.
I noticed the only live action Spider-Man we didn't see was Tom.
Yeah.
well, because they only mentioned it.
Yeah.
But then there was
the
another.
very
We'll get to
beginning.
that other thing later, which kind of relates. But
I think the reason
also
we didn't see him is because everyone in the universe is supposed to forget
Forget
Tom.
that he
who.
he
Yeah.
forgot who he is.
Yeah.
And
That's what I said. I was like, oh my god, look at me remembering shit.
yes, proud of you. But another thing, and I almost forgot about this. I'm glad that you backtracked this a little bit, Kiara. And I only caught this because I watched it twice back to back. When Spot is going through their backstory, because he's like, I created you, you created me. He's like, I pulled the spider from Earth 42, whatever. As he's doing the backstory, when he's explaining the spider, if you pay attention to the people that's in front of the spider who turns around, that was Miles. The kid with the braids who turned around to see the spider disappear, that was Miles.
Oh.
And I only caught it because I was focusing so hard on the spider that I saw the braids.
But now, like, we know the braids from the end
Yeah.
that you were able to like pinpoint it.
Yes, exactly. Because the first time around, didn't notice it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was something interesting that I really liked. The Lego universe cracked me up.
Boop, boop.
That was fun. But then we get to Miles going to the party. He's like aggravated that he has to stop all these people. He like yeeted that whatever the fuck it was, that rolly thing when he's on the train. It was like a bad guy of the week. I can't remember which one it
Yeah.
is. But he just kicked him. He's like so aggravated at this point. He's trying to get these cakes to his dad party. He keeps having to stop stuff. And then he gets there. They have their blow up. And my favorite scene came from this moment because his mom is talking about like all of his grandparents, his abuela, like all the things that they had to do. And he goes, yeah, whatever. And she's like, whatever. She does the whole head thing, like the full thing. And I was like, this is how you know that these people are great animators, to catch something that subtle. And I was like, somebody on that animation team is Latino, Hispanic, Black, something. They know that mom head shake, like fully.
No.
It was great. I loved
My
it.
favorite line from that scene came from Miles. And he says, I'm 15 years old. I'm basically an adult. And I'm like, okay, Ariel, okay.
As someone who works with 15, 16-year-olds, no, you're not.
Okay, Ariel. Can we just have a Little Mermaid moment?
Yes. Yes.
I thought that was so funny.
Oh my god. So good.
My roommate and I looked at each other when he said that, and we were just like, no.
Whew. Yeah, he was being spicy right then. And
Do your
then
guys' theaters have subtitles at all? Because I was getting really annoyed. I didn't have subtitles, so I didn't know like what was being said by his mom.
yeah.
And
No,
No,
we
they
didn't have subtitles.
I think that's so annoying.
I mean,
like they should have had those in there.
Yeah, I
mean,
know. I would have
I could get the context.
Yeah, I would have appreciated subtitles just as a general, because there were so many things that were said like really quietly or really quickly that you just completely miss what's said. So I can't wait to get my hands on my own copy so I can just pause frame by frame to catch everything, especially once Miles gets into the like actual headquarters space, because there's so many things that you miss.
It's literally
all
every
of the
rendition of
things.
Spider-Man ever.
Yeah, pretty much. But so Miles has gotten in trouble with his parents for being late to the party and essentially being a butthead. And he gets grounded.
Well, he's
And
15.
I'm 15. My grandma.
My grandma.
But he's laying in his bed chilling. We get to hear more of the awesome soundtrack. Again, complete banger with the soundtrack.
And I like that this scene with the headphones was from the end of the first movie. So I like how they kind of like it overlapped so you can see where that happened.
But yeah, we get that end scene where the world starts to open up. You hear Gwen yelling, and she comes through. And I love that you can immediately see like how different she looks animation wise from her universe to his universe. Things are a lot sharper in his universe. And we're like, okay, cool. She's joined this gang of spider people. She's just out running around doing her own thing, but we find out she's there for a reason.
And
that
she
reason
shouldn't have seen Miles.
No, and she should not have seen Miles.
She done fucked up.
When they're like swinging around or whatever, and they're on the train, and there's that little kid licking the window.
Oh my!
Like, don't lick that.
Don't do that.
Oh,
he's like,
yes, everybody died. Both times that I saw it, everybody was cracking up because you've seen kids do that.
Yeah.
You've seen that in real life.
Before we get to the serious part, I need to talk about this stupid kid.
Yes, but actually, that whole scene is so good. Just seeing them like be themselves and swing through, and I like seeing the difference between Gwen and Miles and how they swing, because Gwen is very graceful, like she has ballet experience. And then Miles he's athletic, but he's really rough around the edges in his movements. So it's just cool
still growing.
seeing.
So he's like, his limbs he's still getting taller. So he's.
You can especially see that when they do that one move where they're trying to like go through the truck, and Gwen's like all smooth and does it cool, and he comes through ass backwards, just screaming. He's still trying to figure it out.
Thread the needle.
Yes, thread the needle. But yeah, they're running around, and then during this, we see that Gwen has put a camera on Spot, because obviously they had, he was sticking his head through different universes and causing problems. And she does not tell him, which was a very bad idea. Very, very bad idea. But they have all of these heart-to-heart moments. Gwen is telling him about, all the spider people.
It's a small group.
Yeah. Sure, Jan.
Like, listen, at this point, we realize once Miles gets there, it's not that small. And the only two people who are in it is Miles and our Peter. Tom. The only two.
Yes. Um, so they have like all of these great heart to heart moments, and they're talking about all of the different universes. And she ends up having to leave because she's gotten a little notification on her watch thing.
Mhm.
And then he has this great moment with his mom, and
She
she's talking
ungrounds
about,
him.
yeah, she ungrounds him, talks about how, you've gone from this little boy into being this young man, and he's like, we've just done everything that we can to make sure that he knows that he's loved and all of this, and it was great and beautiful.
I
And
thought
then
that moment was like the thought I had when they were having that moment. I'm like, this conversation with his mom is going to be really pinnacle in a decision he is going to make down the line in the type of
absolutely.
person he is going to be as the
Mhm.
Spider-Man.
Mhm.
So
100%, because it's the same kind of conversation that our Peter from the
has with
MCU
May.
has with May. Yeah.
May.
When she does the with great power also comes great responsibility.
No one has
Yeah.
said that in this universe yet.
No, not yet. I'm not excited for it because we know
I'm
that when it
waiting for it.
happens, we know that when it happens, somebody's about to die, and I have theories on who that's going to be, but we can get to that later. But yeah, he has this great moment with his mom. She sends him after Gwen, and
Mhm.
that's when he sees what she's there for, and we see the recreation that Spot has decided to create a miniature collider to give himself more spots so he can get to another universe that has a big collider. And of course, Gwen is like freaking out. Jess has shown up. She's like, what the fuck did you do? And then they figure out where Spot is. Gwen goes to leave. Miles is like, am I gonna go? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go. And follows her. And then we end up in another universe, which is amazing. Mupatan. Love, love that universe. Love that iteration of Spider-Man. He's so funny and quippy. He's obviously never faced any of the hardships that any other iteration of Spider-Man has had, because he talks about like his beautiful hair, how every day is great, his amazing
He doesn't have to work
girlfriend.
out.
He doesn't have to work out because of genetics. But my favorite line that he says as he's introducing the world, he's like, and this is where the traffic is, and this is where the traffic is, and this is where the British stole all of our stuff.
What was funny to me was when the realization happened that Miles was there, and the new Spider-Man was just like, oh, I've been here for 6 months, and Miles was like, 6 months,
Yes.
like, and he has a bracelet.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And it's at that moment that where we as the audience realize, like, oh, they're specifically trying to keep him.
They're keeping Miles out
for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I specifically love that iteration of Spider-Man because they use so many cultural elements in his fighting technique. It is very much so like watching somebody dance. I can't remember exactly what the dance style is, but it's so fluid and it's great. I love that whole sequence in that universe. But I also really loved how he's talking about like, oh, he's obviously in love with you. And he's just got the running commentary as they're like trying to get to Spot.
The tension.
You guys are focusing right now, like on what you do.
Like,
have you talked about Hobie?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So they get to Spot, and Miles is like trying his new thing to like suck in the energy from the shield.
Okay,
Spot
when I was watching that, I was like, okay, so Miles Morales built into his suit the same type of energy that we see in the Black Panther suit, where it takes in energy
So that's
and reverts it back.
It's not his suit, it's him.
It's him.
Yeah, so I just like,
yeah, initially it looks like his suit, but it is actually just Miles. It's Miles that does it.
And then we meet my favorite character.
Yes. And then we meet Hobie.
Hobie.
I love Hobie.
I loved Hobie.
He's so great.
We'll come back to it, but there was one line where he's like, just so you guys know, I quit.
Yes. Hobie is great throughout the entire movie, and he's exactly what I wanted him to be. I was so excited to see him when they started talking about him. But he's like he's Spider-Punk. He is
Yeah.
the epitome of British punk rock, anti-fascism, like very poignant at this
Anti-establishment.
point in time.
My roommate equated him to Jamie Campbell Bower.
I mean, yes,
In a way.
kind of.
Yeah.
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 Similar. But he's just great, and I love when they're like when Miles is like telling them what he's like, I'm gonna do it, but not because you said so. I was like, all right, Hobie, just go and help.
Yeah.
And they're saving these people, and it's great. And then we learn about canon events. So
I
canon
wrote down in
event,
my notes, I wrote, so Miles is a canon disruptor, and that's going to be important for the overall Marvel universe. So I think that this is going to be really important, not just
everywhere.
in Miles the Spider-Verse, but like in our situation with like Kang and all that too. I think that that's going to be really
Mhm.
important
Mhm.
down the line.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But we find out about the canon events. We don't know what the canon event is. They haven't explained like in detail what that is, but we can all obviously surmise that it's essentially hard points in time
It's
where an
it's
event
the
has to occur.
it's the with great power comes great responsibility moments. I think like May
Yeah.
dying, Ben dying, Gwen dying. Like
Mhm.
it's those moments that really flip the switch for the Spider-Man. You know.
Yeah, to become the person that they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But of course Miles disrupts that because essentially this universe's version of Captain Stacy, which is Captain Singh, is supposed to die. And that's supposed to be a really big moment for this version of Spider-Man, and it doesn't happen. And then it starts to create essentially a black hole in this universe because it starts to tear the universe apart. And that's when they're like, okay, now we have to bring Miles in here. And we see a whole group of spider people come up, which there's just too many to catch who everyone is. And I don't know who all of them are. And this is why I immediately texted Aza. I was like, listen, the moment we have this like in our hands, we need to sit down and just like go through this.
Frame for frame.
There's just so much. But we see a bunch of them, and Miles is like, so that Jess tells them that they're gonna go back to HQ, and Miles is like, I get to go back to HQ, and Hobie's like, no, we don't listen to rules, and neither I don't listen to rules, and neither does he. And then Miles is like, hell yeah, I get to go to HQ. And Hobie's
Gwen
like,
is like, please let's not do this.
he's like, I'm trying to help you, bro. And
like in the end, it's like Miles just wants to spend time with all of them. Like he just wants to hang
he just
out.
wants to see his friends. Yeah, he's lonely. He just wants to see his friends.
Mm-hmm.
But they get to HQ, and that's when he's like, oh, a small elite task force, right? Because there's thousands of them.
And like literally every Spider-Man except for Miles and our Peter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how when Jess comes in, I can't remember which one it was. It does specifically say which Spider-Man it was, or which Spider-Woman it was, and what universe she's from. She says something quippy, and then Jess goes, oh, does anybody else have something funny to say or something like that? And then immediately they all start going in. I was like, all right, y'all.
No, so my favorite scene in all of this, obviously they're walking through and they're meeting all of these different Spider-Men.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking wild. You're just like, what the hell is going on? This horse has a mask on. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
They got to the villains. And
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. Hold on. Before we get to that, I really want to quickly say Spider Car, great. Love that. Ben, fantastic. Love Ben. He's always like very overly dramatic. I mean, he's a clone, but he's very overly dramatic. Love him. Can't wait to see more of him. Now we're to the villains.
We're at the villains. We're going through. We're seeing all the ones that we kind of saw, kind of peeking through at the end of our last Spider-Man movie with Tom, like the little rhino guy and everything. But then we get Donald Glover in his Prowler outfit.
Yes.
I was just like,
I'm like, is this Tom Holland's universe Donald Glover? Because he was in the very first movie with the ice cream, and he's like, my ice cream's melting in my car, man. Like, what?
Yeah, I think so, because he
I think
specifically
so
talks
too.
about his nephew Miles. Like, why would they throw that in there if it wasn't, a little bit of sprinkle? But everybody in my theater both times gasped Like when the second time I went to watch it, I turned to like look at the people around me to watch them see that moment. It was great. The girl right beside me, jaw on the floor. Fantastic.
I was like,
my brain kept like
know.
glitching every time like a non-animated thing would come up, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
right, multiverse, right.
Yes.
I was like,
So excited.
what a cameo.
Yeah.
And he gets two because we get to see him again on
Yeah.
the way out. And he's like, run.
And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Get it.
But we see the villains, and then obviously they're taking Miles to see Miguel for the first time. I love Hobie and his running commentary again about
And
being
just
more,
snatching all the
just
pieces.
take things, anti-establishment terrorism. He's just fantastic through the whole thing. And
Then we find out later on like what those little things were that he was grabbing.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll touch on.
Yep.
And then we get to Miguel's space, and he's like coming down. And again, Miles being so fidgety and just beautiful animation. And
Just
like, I know it's slow, it's his thing. Just let him do it.
It's just
It's his thing.
And then Hobie's back there just like
He's like just running around, lounging around, and he gets down. And Miles, of course, trying to be his usual charming self. He brought him an empanada, speaking
Yeah.
Spanish.
And Miguel already doesn't like Miles.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
he's already a hater. And I just like how, as he's talking, Hobie says something, and Miguel's like, I can't even look at you. And he's like, you can't see me. He's like, I'm not here. And then he pops up somewhere else. We're here. But as this is all going on, we hear somebody from the background, and it's Peter B. Parker. It is Peter B. Parker with his daughter, Mayday.
His baby.
His baby,
Just
who's
baby.
adorable.
Baby.
Little Mayday. She's great.
Don't name your kid Mayday though.
I love that dad moment where he's like showing everybody pictures and she's in the room.
Yeah.
And seeing her crawl around is super fun. Seeing her crawl all over Miguel. That's like his one soft moment where he like doesn't have a reaction to her crawling all over him because she's a baby. Like he'd really have to be super fucked up. Which I mean he is. He's like part vampire, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So we're getting the commentary from Miguel, and he starts to explain the canon events, and he shows all of the previous canon events. We see Andrew with Gwen. I keep calling him Andrew, and I need to stop doing that.
Well, it's how we like.
It's way to differentiate them.
Like we know it's Peter, but like for us to understand, we're like it's
It's Andrew.
Andrew,
like,
and then we
looking
see like
at the scene from the Amazing Spider-Man. This is Andrew's scene. We get to see Toby at one point.
Toby.
Like
Yep.
Yeah.
With Ben. So
yeah,
I kept
Andrew with Gwen.
Our listeners will know what we're talking about when we say their real names.
We see Andrew with Gwen, Toby with his Uncle Ben, and then we also see Andrew again with his Uncle Ben.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, a lot of little bits and pieces from Andrew, which again, I think they're doing on purpose because
we get but here's the thing: we're getting Andrew and we're getting Venom, and there's been like theory talks that that's the same universe. So, and that's Earth 688 BT Dubs.
Yes. And we just see more like iterations of their moment, their loss of Uncle Ben, or the loss of their love, or whoever it is. We see like a little snip of Hobie's. We see Jess. We get to see Peter B. Parker's loss, his loss of Captain Stacy. Just so many moments, and you see the flashback to Miles losing Uncle Aaron, and they're explaining like why these canon events are important, and he says specifically the loss of a captain, and that's when Miles realized like
his dad's about to be one.
My dad is about to be a captain. And he's like, you just want me to let my dad die. He's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then they try and trap him, which is bullshit. And of course, everybody's like shouting. Peter's like, this is not what we talked about. You shouldn't have been talking about Miles behind his back like that. And then you turn around and you see Hobie, and he's like, use your palms, because
Yeah.
earlier when he was trying to suck in the
He's
electricity,
in this
If you
cocoon,
use your whole hand.
and everyone's like, "You're going too far," and Hobie's just like,
Yes.
everyone's like not paying. He's like, Miguel's like, "I'm over you, Hobie," and Hobie's like,
Yes.
And Hobie's like, I'm over you, Miguel.
Yeah, and I love that
Ow.
moment. I love that moment too when I can't remember what it is that he says, but he's like, Hobie's like egging him on, and Peter's like, "You're not helping." He's like, "Good."
That's the whole point. Like,
Yeah,
I
he's
think
like, "I'm
Hobie
not
and
trying to."
I think Hobie and Miles are really good for each other. I think they're able to like kind of bounce off of each other really well as two different
Mhm.
Spider-Men. What was I gonna say? Also in that scene before, like obviously before he gets put in that little like cocoon thing,
Mm-hmm.
I love like, you know, you kind of see the conversation he was having with his mom kind of come back a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's talking about how he has to save his dad, and like, wouldn't you want the chance to save your person? Like, at least give him the chance. And you can really see like the start of him being like, we're supposed to be the good guys, like
Mhm.
we're the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and Miguel's
Yeah.
like, no. And you
Yeah.
can kind of like see that start, just like, okay, how bad are some of these Spider-Men, you know?
Yeah. And I think probably the saddest part of that whole scene is when Miles is saying, you know, we're Spider-Man, Spider-Man always, and Peter's like, Spider-Man doesn't always save everyone. But I think it would have been really great if he had said, but Spider-Man always tries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, is they have given up. And Miles is refusing to.
And they gave up because Miguel said these things have to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they don't. They like like
No.
the thing is, it's like everyone thinks that this has to happen to Miles, like his dad has to die for him to have like his canon event. But we already know like he's this abnormality. Like, it's not, if he's an abnormality, like this probably shouldn't be happening to him in his universe. Like, it's not gonna, his storyline is not going to be the same as everyone else's, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, for context, we don't actually know
Not by this
how much
point,
of
but
an
like,
abnormality,
but
but
like,
know now. But yeah, Miles is like, no. And then he, of course, blasts everyone away and then starts running. And this was one of the greatest chase scenes I've ever witnessed, because it's so chaotic and goofy and fun. And it's exactly what Spider-Man is supposed to be,
I
which is
love
funny and chaotic.
that we got another point scene.
Yes.
You.
Yes. Because he's like, stop Spider-Man. And everybody's like, like Miles specifically. Which I thought was interesting, because then that meant that there wasn't another Miles Morales there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's how I interpreted it.
That's how I interpreted it too, which means, I mean,
Yeah.
we find out later why, but
Yeah. But there are like 8 million Peter Parkers. And
well, it's Peter Parker.
a couple of other randoms.
But there's a Miles Morales in our universe, technically. He's not Spider-Man,
but he's not Spider-Man. But we get this chase scene. We see Spider-Cat. Great. The
funny.
Spider T-Rex. Also great.
I
I wasn't ready for that.
I
we were
died.
we were like, what the fuck is happening? There's a spider cat, and they were like, what else could there be?
Listen,
and then there's the T-Rex, and we're like, we're done. We can't.
So funny.
Honestly, you should have just been mentally prepared for whatever after Spider-Ham. Because anything is possible. Anything can be a spider person if you believe hard enough.
Yeah.
Which they clearly did. I mean, they had a car. One of them was a car. Like,
that's very true.
I just liked seeing Miles be Miles and work his environment to his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
When he pulled the one Spider-Man out from under that weight thing, and they all had to like stop to catch it, he ran across the Spider-Woman who was holding the things together, essentially recreating the scene in was it Homecoming, where it's either Homecoming or Far From Home. No,
it's
one of those
when he's pulling the boat back together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Essentially recreating that moment.
It's the very first
and everybody
one
like piles on top of her and they all just fall. It was great. It just showcases Miles's ingenuity. Which pretty much all like spider people have.
Also his like really smart brain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like how that showcased how smart he is, even though he didn't really have a working plan at the moment. At least it didn't seem to us like he had a plan. And he's running. That moment between him and Gwen, when Gwen catches him and he looks up at her and is just like betrayed because, you know, she did betray him essentially.
Yeah.
And you can just see the sadness in her face. When Peter catches up with him and he's like, hold the baby, just hold my baby,
the baby, I'll give you some serotonin.
But then he feels betrayed by Peter too.
Yeah, because the thing pops up.
Yeah, which I don't think Peter. He obviously did not do that on
I
purpose.
just really loved during that whole scene up until, and we'll get to that, but up until that, like, when he like pushes off the train. That whole time he was like, I taught him that. And Jess is like, that's not
He's
good.
so
And he's like,
proud.
I taught him that too.
Yeah,
Maybe
Jess
I
is
am
like,
a
you're a
good
bad
one.
Jess is like, you're a bad mentor. He's like, he's running from thousands of spider people. I think I'm a pretty goddamn good mentor. Which she is. It's just, you know, they're mad that he's working against them instead of with them. But I really liked the conversation too, where Peter is telling him, like, you're the reason why I even have a kid. He's like, because you're such an amazing person. I thought that I could raise an amazing kid like you are. And then of course he like gets his call and they're like, we're tracking your location, and Miles is like, no, fuck you. And then he has that awesome moment where he like slingshots himself through the gears and the network of that machine. That was great. Loved that. Still running, and now we're getting Miguel chasing after his ass like hardcore, which is terrifying.
I hate Miguel.
Yeah,
Miguel is not to be fucked with. Let's be honest. He is an absolute terror. He's verging on demonic. But he's gotten to this like car train intersection thing, and this is where we have the reveal that Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
And it's like, and it's an even bigger reveal because he is the original anomaly. Like, before, like, basically stating that, like, if he hadn't happened, then our multiverse situation with Spider-Man wouldn't have happened. Like, absolutely fucking insane. I will say, I want to track back a little bit. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there was a hockey Spider-Man at one point.
Yeah.
I missed that.
I think
I was like, hockey stick.
I think there was hockey and a woman with a hockey stick. Also, there was a disabled spider person, a spider woman. I think that might actually be Madam Web. I'm probably wrong about that. We can talk about that at another point.
There was like also a line between Gwen and Jess when they were chasing Miles, and one of them had said something, and Gwen basically said, my gut is telling me something different, and Jess is like, listen to your head. And I'm like, always listen to your gut, especially you guys have spidey senses. Like, your gut is like your like most important thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I caught that too. I was like,
exactly. Crazy. But yeah, we're having like Miguel's big freak out where he's essentially like real close to potentially killing Miles because he's trying so hard to stop him. And Miles has his moment where he's like, I'm Miles Morales, I'm Spider-Man. And he has his like, it's essentially a repeat. Well, not a repeat. It's a similar emotional vibe as when he initially becomes Spider-Man and he jumps off of the building. And we have that beautiful like climactic scene. This is a recreation of that moment. And he jumps off of the
train,
whatever it is.
The Sky Train.
Yeah, after essentially being told that he's a mistake, and also finding out that Gwen and Peter both knew and did not tell him.
And that's such a big betrayal.
Yes, massive betrayal. So, and then of course he tells Miguel, he's like, you act like you act like I don't know what I'm doing, but I've led hundreds of spider people away from HQ. And Miguel's like, oh, I fucked up.
And everyone keeps calling him kid. And he's like, I'm not a kid.
Yeah. I mean, he is a kid.
He's not an adult. He's not an adult, but like obviously, like he's grown.
He's not a child.
And he's still learning.
He's an experienced Spider-Man. Like, he's been Spider-Man for over a year. Like, he has an idea of what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he jumps from the Sky Train, gets back to HQ. He's doing his invisible thing, starting up that machine, And this was the moment where I was like, oh my God, this is going to go so badly, because I remember them saying specifically that it matches to your DNA. And we know now that Miles was not bitten by a spider from his universe. He was bitten by a spider from universe
42.
42.
42, not
So the
1610.
machine pulls the DNA. You see it say Earth 42, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of the people in both of my screenings did not catch.
It took me a minute
Yeah.
to be like, oh,
And
fuck.
so the girl that was like working on it, like she was like, yeah, I'm gonna send him back to his world. Like she was like so hopeful that she was helping him.
Yeah.
She fucked up.
Which
I
she
also
kind of was.
Yeah, I love Morgan Kess, or Margot Kess. I don't know if you remember this, Kira, but the Spider-Man ride in Disneyland, Margot was on there. She's one of the
Yeah.
girls in there. But yeah, that's another, because they have like a bunch of spider. Anyways, that's another thing. But yeah, she's like so excited about trying to help him, and nobody realizes that he did not go to his home universe.
Nope.
Which was really distressing. And you can't really tell initially. Like, it's a slight color variation. It's more of a green than Miles's home universe. But then, of course, you see like Jess and Ben and Miguel like
And they make
come
it seem like
through.
they're all in. Okay, but there was the scene where they sent Gwen back.
Yeah,
And she was like, I thought we were supposed to be the good guys. And like when
yeah,
it was panning to everyone else, and they're just like,
yeah.
and Miguel's like,
You
we
could
are the
see a
good
lot
guys.
of
And I'm like,
them. Yeah, you could see a lot of them were caught off guard. You could see Jess specifically too, being like, "Oh, I think we fucked up."
Yeah.
And Miguel turns around. He's like, "We are the good guys." And I was like, "You are not in this moment. If you're saying it that aggressively, you're not."
yeah.
But they've sent one away. She goes back, sees her dad. They have their heartfelt moment of like rebonding, and her dad quits.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be a canon moment.
Yep.
Because he was also a captain.
And so
And she's like,
it just shows you that Miles isn't the only like canon disruptor. If anything, Miguel is the canon disruptor.
yeah.
Because he pulled all of these people into this other universe
Mm-hmm.
to kind of be crime fighters. But ultimately, like in the end, like they're just supposed to be friendly neighborhood Spider-Men or Spider-Women, Spider people, Spider things.
Exactly. Listen,
Spider
if things were
beams.
supposed to be adjusted, the TGA would be involved.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
True.
Anyways.
But then we get to find out why Hobie was just stealing a bunch of little knickknacks.
Yeah.
Stealing things. To put a little bracelet.
Made me so happy.
He made his own little bracelet, which at first I was like, oh, that's a continuity issue, because when he's like, I quit, he throws his bracelet back. But then, of course, when I saw the other one, I was like, oh, right, this is a little hanky looking. He was stealing all those pieces and made one for Gwen.
Because he's also very smart.
They all are. It's a typical Spider-Man trait. But she goes to Miles's universe, like trying to find him and help him. And then she, of course, realizes that Miles isn't there. Miles has not realized this yet, because he's in his room talking to his mom in Earth 42.
But you can
and
kind
has
of
not
see it
caught
just
on.
like everything looks a bit dingier.
Yeah, it's a little dingier. He doesn't have like any of his posters up. He doesn't have his action figures out. His mom looks not completely different, but different enough to know that she's a different version, because his mom in his universe, she's always wearing like brighter clothes, very put together, like just she's, her. And she looks really worn down in Earth 42, which is understandable considering the circumstances. But yeah, it started to dawn on more people, like the more he's talking, and the more you see like the other characters like coming to Miles's house and not seeing him. And Miles like has that realization that he's in the wrong universe kind of at the same time that Gwen does, because her spider senses go off. She's like, he's not here. And Gwen has this moment with Miles's parents. She's like, I'm gonna find him, this is my fault, like I'm gonna bring him home. And of course Rio's like, tell him 5 months.
5 months.
5 months.
And
I love that continued on.
Yeah. Prevalent theme. But then in Earth 42, Miles, he's like realizing this is not his universe. And who comes through the door but old Uncle Aaron?
Aaron.
And that boy looked like he was about to have a stroke.
Yeah.
And Uncle
'Cause that
Aaron knew
was-
it was him, like, immediate. It wasn't, like, his Miles immediately.
Yeah, he could tell it was off because he mentions the braids. He's like trying to figure out what's going on. They of course leave, and he's like talking to him about his plan. And they go up to the roof, and that's when he like turns around and looks. He's like, "Oh, this universe doesn't have a Spider-Man," and that's why it looks the way it does, and why there's so
he
much
sees
crime.
the big art memorial that his Miles in that universe made of his dad, because
Yeah.
his dad died as the captain, which in
Mhm.
my opinion is the reason why this Miles in that universe went the route that he did after his
Mhm.
dad died.
Yeah. So right before Miles gets hit, you can see something flash in Aaron's face, and I think it was that universe's Miles texting Aaron. I think that's what made it click for him, because I caught that in the second one. I was like, how did he figure it out? Because like obviously you can tell that something's off.
Yeah.
But he wasn't playing like too terribly much like he had caught on. I think he was suspicious, but I think that confirmed it for him. But then he gets hit by something, and you see it's like flashing between him and Gwen at this point. And Gwen has like decided to assemble her team, make her own band.
Mm-hmm.
She goes and gets
She got
Peter.
the band back together.
Yeah, she goes and gets Peter, and Peter is having his moment with Mary Jane, and she's like, "Did you take my baby into another fight?" And he's like, "No, never. Obviously
Why would I
not.
do that?
Why would I do that?
No."
And then he takes her again.
Again, because that's just how he is.
I love the little like knitted spider hat.
Spider
He's like,
bad
all right.
parenting. Like,
And
this
he's
is
always
bad
wearing that
parenting.
stupid bathrobe.
Yes, the pink bathrobe. But yeah, Gwen goes to get him, and he obviously goes with. And we see Miles stuck to a punching bag, and he's like trying to plead with Aaron. Aaron's like, "I know you're not my Miles," and he's like, he's like, "I know you don't want to be the Prowler. I know you want to be good." And then he goes, "I'm not the Prowler." And we get the reveal of who the current Prowler is. And Prowler walks up to him. He's like, "Your dad's alive." And he's like, "Yes."
And
He's
at
like,
this
"Who are
moment,
you?"
I had to pee so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's still so much movie left. Like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we get the reveal that this universe's Prowler is Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm.
And I love seeing the difference in animation style between the two of them, because Prowler Miles is very harsh.
Yeah.
His line work is very, very harsh, which makes sense because this universe is a lot darker, a lot grittier. And Miles is just like, "What the fuck is happening?" And we flash away from Miles and go back to Gwen, where we see her new team assembled, which includes some of our spider people from the last movie, as well as some of our new friends, which is great. And then the movie ends.
Everyone's like, what the fuck?
So you see, so it ends with like the Prowler Miles Morales has his like fist up against the bag next to Miles' head, and it's like kind of glowing, getting brighter.
Yeah, and
But
you see
Miles
like
is
rubbing his finger.
touching. He's rubbing his finger on metal chains to get the electricity out of it. I'm like,
yeah.
And then it said to be continued, and I'm just like, what?
And you're like, I gotta pee.
Fuck.
But yeah, it was great. The end credits were amazing. I have a distinct feeling that there are some teasers for the next one in that end credit scene. And there wasn't like really a post credit thing, just that Miles will return in Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is very exciting, and I'm hoping that we'll get more tie-ins from other.
I really like how they're kind of following the same title scheme as the Homecoming scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's cute. And I feel like that is also like a little tie-in too that we'll see them at some point together.
I think we might. I genuinely think it'll happen.
Wouldn't it
This
be so
movie was
fun if
just
Tom
so
was just
fucking
like
good.
in the next one?
But no one knows who he is. And he's like,
Tom's like, I'm Spider-Man!
Oh, it's Spider-Man.
It's like,
Well, because people still remember Spider-Man, they just don't know Peter
you don't
Parker.
know, it's Peter Parker. Yeah.
I loved it. It was just so good. It was so amazing. Love, love, love the soundtrack. Another banger. Every animation style was fantastic. Loved the quips, the little cameos that we got. I'm just overall very, very pleased. I forgot to say this earlier, but something that was really funny to me, and this is why I wish I had had subtitles. When Miles is being chased by Miguel and he lands on that car, and then Miguel lands on another car, and the lady like points at him and he flies away. He's like, snitch! Because it's just fun little quips that you miss.
yeah.
Especially if you're an old person like I am and have bad hearing. But yeah, it was just so good. I'm so happy. What are your all's final thoughts? I talked the most throughout this whole thing, which I'm sure everybody anticipated, but still.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I'm really excited to see how it continues with like the rest of the Spider-Man that Gwen got together, because obviously she said she knows like where to start in the universe aspect, but like, is it gonna be Earth 42 or is she gonna go somewhere else? And like we're gonna kind of see like her trying to find him, and he's like basically hiding from the Prowler in this new universe like this whole time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can't imagine. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You can't imagine what.
I can't imagine that they don't know that he's in Earth 42. There's got to be a way for Margot to have looked back to see which universes we're gone to, and they know that spider came from Earth 42. So I would think that they know that he's in Earth 42. It's just going to be a matter of finding out where he is. Yeah. So
I liked it. It was just really long.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind these fight scenes. So.
I figured you would have an easier time with them because they were more on the funny side instead of the serious side.
Yeah.
I was like, I think Katalyn's going to have a really good time, especially especially when Spot kicks his own butt.
Yes.
Or like seeing them like cartwheel through the air because they like have no coordination.
But I liked it. And the music is so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to have that soundtrack. It's so good. But yeah, I would love to know everybody else's thoughts about this. I've already been screaming with Aza about this. There are a couple of people, I think, in our Discord server that are getting ready to see it, so I'm curious to see what they say. If you guys want to join in on conversation, you can join us there, or you can always message us on Instagram at Thirsty Bitch Podcast. You can email us at our Gmail, tbp.staythirsty@gmail.com. And we also have the Q&A feature on Spotify now, so you can ask us questions there. So make sure to just reach out if you ever want to chit-chat. We'd love to hear from you. But for now, Kiara, will you take us out with an affirmation?
I will. So today's affirmation is, I am happy because I have the power to change my life for the better, and I do it every day.
Love that.
Very apropos.
Yes. Like Mal said, nah, I'm going to do my own thing.
Nah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure to tune in on Tasty Tuesdays and Thirsty Thursdays for all new episodes. Be sure to subscribe and follow our socials. Listen to the description. Make sure you like, rate, and leave a review for the podcast to help boost us across platforms. Helps more than you know. Have a lovely day. And remember, stay thirsty, bitches.